How did you come to Pāṇini? Obviously, you were born in a great family of traditional studies of Sanskrit. But what brought you to become so interested in the subject?
When I was studying linguistics, at a time when transformational generative grammar was very much considered very much an in thing, very important, and I was doing my PhD, I was interested in syntax. At the same time, Stahl and some others, they were talking about Pāṇini's grammar. I found that Pāṇini is rather modern. And that is what brought me to the idea of working on Pāṇini on those lines, since I was interested in doing the syntax. So that was the reason I found Pāṇini, and also the use of the computer was becoming very, very in thing, important thing. So computer application of Pāṇini's grammar, that became something like a possibility, a real live possibility, as against to the way we were studying Sanskrit in here, where the use of computer and Pāṇini, those were two different things. And the time has removed Pāṇini from the computer, at least in the thought at that time. That myth was broken at the time when the transformational generative model was brought to focus, and I started working on the nature of grammar the Ashtadhyayi reflected. So that's what made me very much interested.
And for someone who is unfamiliar with the subject, what does it offer for humanity? I mean, what is the contribution of Pāṇini?
If you are a student, if you are an academician, it can teach you a lot. It can teach you the discipline with which you have to approach your discipline. In other words, not the dedication and discipline with which you will be studying Pāṇini's grammar or any other text in the grammatical tradition, but any text, anything, and that is the dedication, the respect which you must bring. And then you start with the teacher, starting with the most primary things, but the viewpoint, my understanding and my experience tells me that you can understand Pāṇini by first looking at the entire Ashtadhyayi in general as to what are the basic features of the things Ashtadhyayi teaches you, or what are the features of the content that has been put in the grammar. More technically, what are the ways he formulates the rules, what are the ways he orders the rules, he interprets the rules, or what kind of constraints he has on the application of those rules. In many ways, the Sanskrit grammarians, especially Patanjali, who is considered as the foremost authority for the Pāṇinians, he brings the loka all the time. He talks about the loka. What happens in the loka, in the outside world, doesn't necessarily happen in the inside world. So that brings the loka constantly in view. And that is why Patanjali uses so many Laukika Nyaya, where I have written a paper on the Laukika Nyayas in grammar. So that can teach us a lot. That can also teach us a lot about the ancient Indian culture. The Loka at the time of Pāṇini, the Loka which is reflected in the grammar, or at least the grammar tries to reach out to the Loka. So that also requires us to talk about Pāṇini in terms of the time. A very good book that was done by Vasudeva Sharana Agrawala is Pāṇini at the time of, India at the time of Pāṇini, that is Pāṇini Kalin Bharatvarsha. It was followed on by theses on Patanjali Kalin Bharatvarsha, etc. So it's the perspective that this grammar offers an eye to the culture.
And for a student who is wanting to study it, how much time is needed to actually comprehend the subject?
Well, I don't know exactly how to answer this question. It all depends on what kind of dedication and what kind of understanding a student seeks when he comes to. Secondly, it all depends on him and the teacher how far he can go. So there are instances where it has been said that one life is not enough to understand Pāṇini. I can say yes, one life is not enough. But you have to start somewhere and you will end up somewhere. In the meantime, the condition is that you are walking or going in a direction. Any directional, non-directional moving is useless. Look at the Vedic, what do you call, slogan. Charaiveti, charaiveti, charaiveta, charaeva, charaeva, charaeva. Keep wandering, 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 keep moving, moving, moving. But that moving, the slogan of the Vedic sages, was moving on into the life. But you must have a direction to move toward. It's not a directionless. The root char, like in Hindi, is used as gaye charti hain. Cows graze. But the cows graze in a direction. Their grazing is not directionless. They only go where the grass is greener and easily available. They won't go into another direction. So it has to be direction, full of direction. It must have an objective, and to support that you have to have a teacher, how he teaches you, how he treats you as your student. So, but yes, for a general understanding of the grammar, after that you pursue your studies on your own. I would say, let's start with number 3. 3 years with a well-informed teacher who can teach you, making sure you understand whatever you are taught. That should be fairly enough for you to move on your own. How many years you take on your own after those 3 years, that depends on you.
And currently there was an interest of looking at Pāṇini and the development of modern computers, because many of the same operations that are mentioned in the grammar are used in computer science and so forth. So do you think this is a subject that could be taken further, I mean, in research?
Oh, certainly. Because I have a belief that Pāṇini, when he formulated his sutras, he must have followed certain precursor of symbolic logic, set theory. It was not just like, capturing some thought into the meter anustupa. No. He must have well thought over what would be the way, the rendition. And that rendition must be presented with briefer means. And that brevity must be accomplished with clarity. In other words, brevity should not be accomplished at the expense of clarity. Those were the two conditions. Then I have heard, and I have seen the efforts. There was a conference on artificial intelligence in Bangalore. I wrote a paper, Pāṇini on reference to variable antecedents. The effort now, as those days I was much interested with a Professor Srinivasan who was doing his PhD in physics at the University of Rochester while I was doing my linguistics. And he wanted to talk to me, he wrote to me once and he wanted to talk to me on Pāṇini. From physics to Pāṇini, was very much interested in that, and he's the one who invited me. He asked me to write a paper and come to, which I didn't go, but that paper has been published. The question is, what can the grammar of a natural language written with natural intelligence contribute towards the development of artificial intelligence so that improvements could be brought to an artificial language like Java. That's basically where Pāṇini can help a great deal. Then, the way Pāṇini has formulated his rules, the way Pāṇini has ordered his rules, the way Pāṇini has a mechanism whereby the rules can be interpreted, and those rules are not the sterile rules, but those rules which are functional. So he is looking at a rule in the context of application, and that's why Patanjali has hinted at, and the Paribhasha Sekhar has those two paribhashas, Yasodesh Sangya Paribhasham and Karikal Sangya Paribhasham, and that's why they talk about the carrying over of the samskara, memory impressions, if you want to say, the samskara of the Yasodesha to the Karikal. There has been a lot written and said about, mostly outside world, about Pāṇini. Oh boy, it's so different. And these Pandits, what do? They are doing Vyakarnacharya. But true, they don't understand that Pāṇini could be used to that extent. That aspect, we have to show it to the traditional world that look, there are also ways to interpret Pāṇini without violating the dictates of the tradition. At least I am the one who calls himself a traditionalist, and he does everything possible to make Pāṇini understood to the West in English, and I think I am very good in expressing myself in English. Pāṇini, which is not so easy. But I spent 45 years.
I would say of everything written in Sanskrit, it's the most difficult thing to translate and express, because it's you know, if you take a poem or an Ayurvedic text, it's literal. But Pāṇini, you have to unravel it on many layers. That's its beauty, actually.
Yeah. On the Sanskrit, on that front, I would say that it's not just the computer application which is revealing all kinds of things to you in terms of what the technology is doing or the sciences are doing. You have to remember that Vyakarana is a Shastra and it has got its own science. So even when you raise the question of science in the context of a Shastra has its own science or is its own science. And Pāṇini's genius has been recognized. But what we have to do by studying Pāṇini in the field of computer application in the area, we have to show to the world that, look, Pāṇini is more than what the eco-yanachi is, that ik is seen replaced with yana when it occurs before a vowel. No, it goes beyond that, especially in the rule formulation, rule interpretation, rule order, and rule application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.